Okay, good afternoon everyone. Welcome back from afternoon tea. It's my pleasure this afternoon to introduce Kim Carter. Kim Carter is the author of a few security books, organiser of the Christchurch Hacker Conference, otherwise known as CHICON, is helping organise OWASP Day in Auckland with me, and all-round nice fellow. Today he'll be talking about the art of exploitation. So let's welcome Kim to the stage.
How's it going, everyone? So we're going to look at the most effective attack techniques for the most common vulnerabilities. So what are the most common vulnerabilities? So this is a recent cryptogram reading, which is Dan Hennage reading out Bruce Snyer's blog posts. Can we hear that?
Credential. Basically, they steal hackers break into networks is by stealing and using a valid credential. Basically, they steal passwords, set up man-in-the-middle attacks to piggyback on legitimate logins, or engage in cleverer attacks to masquerade as authorized users. It's a more effective avenue of attack in many ways. It doesn't involve finding a zero-day or unpatched vulnerability. There's less chance of discovery, and it gives the attacker more flexibility in technique. Rob Joyce, the head of the NSA's Tailored Access Operations.
Okay. So that's password stealing. Steve Miller, which is the head of security operations for FireEye, formerly worked for NSA. This is a wee clip from him from Risky Business.
So most of the attackers I see use the very common attack vectors: spear phishing, web shells. Very rarely are exploits even necessary to get into their target environments. I've seen an increasing use in certainly in things like LinkedIn and Facebook, sort of targeting of specific individuals for attackers to get in. So, for me in my job, I always worry about looking at weaponized documents like resumes and stuff, because I do a lot of hiring now. I look at hundreds of resumes a year, and very, very common attacker technique that will probably be pervasive forever.
Okay, so let's start with passwords. So there's so many ways to get passwords. We can brute force databases that have used simple hashing or key derivation functions with few iterations. We can brute force web UIs. We can use any of the many password profiling tools available to us. Or we can go phishing for them. So we're also going to use the browser exploitation framework, also known as BEEF, which is similar to a web shell but better because nothing's dropped on the target box. So there's no issues with antivirus. And we're going to use a module that acts as a Facebook login prompt. I decided to lump all these attacks into a simple single attack so that we have time for the second half of this talk. So let's see how this is played out. Just resizing a window so that it'll actually fit on this screen. Okay, so first of all we start Metasploit. It's not necessary in this demo, but if you want to use the Metasploit modules via BEEF, you'll have to have it running. And then we start BEEF. Okay, so that's the browser exploitation framework administrative UI. So we're just logging into that as the attacker. Okay, so this is NodeGoat. This is a purposely vulnerable Node web application. It's an OWASP project. So we've just logged in there as a low privileged user. And we're just going to go to the profile route and dropped a script tag into the last name. All of these 7 fields here are vulnerable to basically dropping in script tags and that sort of thing, because they're not validated, sanitized. Yeah. So basically what we're going to do there is we're just going to drop in the hook.js file, which is the piece of JavaScript which calls up the beef communication server and continually asks for commands to be executed on the post-exploited victim. So now the administrator's logging in, which is our target. And you can see there, if we just go back a little bit. Yeah, so the last name field there for, is it? The top one anyway, I can't quite see it. Yep, so that's got our script tag in it. And that's now executed. So that's hooked the browser, and you can see the IP address there of the hook browser. And you can see the hooks continuing to poll in the network tab of the developer tools. So if you mouse over the victim's IP address there, you get quite a bit of information on the actual victim there. And you've got quite a few tabs across the top there too, which also gives quite a bit of information. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to spring a pretty simple attack. Based on some reconnaissance that we've done, we know that our victim lives on Facebook, and we're just going to pop a modal dialog box here. So this modal dialog box could be any social media modal, basically. So basically, it just captures credentials, and because it's modal, a user can't move away from it until they've actually entered something. So I'm using a Facebook one in this stage because we've done some recon on them, and we know that they use Facebook regularly. So the victim enters lazydev@targeted.com and lazydev for a password. That's L4ZYDEV. And that's their credentials there. So we've now got their credentials. And we're just going to have a bit of a quick look through some of the modules available in Beef. As you can see, there's a plethora of them. So all of those are exploits that we can carry out. Yeah, those are the Metasploit ones there. Okay. So all of this is basically just because of the trivial cross-site scripting defect. It really is trivial, but because of that, we can steal passwords. As you can see, we've done some spear phishing, kind of web shells, and Facebook. Facebook. Yeah. So now we're going to have a go at weaponized documents. So we're going to use a PowerShell attack. And by default, PowerShell is installed on Windows Server 2008 R2 and Windows 7 onwards. PowerShell is going to continue to be on all boxes, providing access to pretty much everything on the box. So this is excellent news for penetration testers and other attackers. Execution policies are easily overridden. And we've got full direct access to the Win32 API and the .NET framework. And we can assemble malicious shellcode in memory without antivirus detecting it. So we're going to be using libraries PSM, SF, Powersploit, and Nishang.